Hello, my name is Nancy Schnobel and Ems, and I'm with Polished, a professional development company that focuses on soft skills. I like to call them people skills, interpersonal skills, smart skills. And today we're going to spend some time talking about empathy in the workplace. Empathy is the ability to communicate, send and receive messages, right? So two things, to be able to verbalize and to receive them, to be able to internalize them and to listen. And empathy is also about leading by understanding others' thoughts, views, and feelings. And that's critically important in the workplace because, as you know, if there's miscommunication, things go awry. People get upset, people get frustrated. But when we put our empathy hat on in the workplace and really take time to understand the other's perspective, the other's point of view, things can become so much more harmonious. And so we're going to spend, like I said, a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes talking about empathy and how we can really elevate our empathy, develop that skill. So it is going to not only be effective for you, but for the entire workplace and your coworkers. When we have high empathy, it leads to stronger and more meaningful relationships. Who doesn't want that, right? It leads to success in the workplace, harmony, productivity, happiness. And above all, it leads to better health and quality of life. Empathy is a skill. It takes time to develop. And it is my goal today to share with you some really key points to help you get there. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen here. And pardon me. Pull it up. Slideshow. You think I'd have this down pat, right? Okay. So benefits of EI in the workplace. Huge. There's lots of benefits to be had with having good empathy skills. The most important one, well, there's lots of them, as you can see here on the slide, but the most important one, it empowers others, leaders like ourselves, to recognize others. And when we can do that, when we can see, walk in their shoes, communication becomes very much more fluid, much more a win-win for all parties. The other nice feature of empathy is it produces this higher morale. We all know what it's like to work in a high-paced, fast, challenging, deadline-oriented environment, especially in your profession as administrative assistants. I get that. But when you have that empathy, it assists you in really tapping your your potential. The sky's the limit, because you're understanding, you're seeing that perspective from another person's point of view. And not only you're seeing it, but you're really taking time to understand it. So take a look at these key bullet points here and value them, because you know what? We all have to work. We all have bills to pay. But if we can really engage ourselves with empathy, work is just another form of our DNA. It's what we do. And it allows you to do it in an effective, positive way because of your empathy skills. So this is the pure and plain definition. I'm just going to read it. The ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people. And person with high empathy skills is skilled at how you treat others according to their emotional actions. And that's very critical. That should be underlined, highlighted, bolded, how you treat others according to their emotional actions. Now, we're living in a very difficult time right now, this pandemic. There's lots of restrictions, there's lots of sacrifices. And your sacrifice may be different from another sacrifice. Maybe you're working from home and you remotely can have that flexibility, if you will, of taking a break if you feel a little bit overwhelmed with a coworker or a project or an assignment. A frontline worker, for example, in the healthcare field, they don't have that privilege of working at home because obviously they're caring for patients face to face on a more personal level. Having empathy in whatever career or whatever job you have is the cornerstone of leadership. HR professionals look for people. They want to hire good people who have that empathy in their blood and in their DNA, in their fabric. So let's look at some of these hallmarks of empathy, the badges that you wear, the gifts that come with it. It builds when you have when you hire, when you have empathy, like yourselves, you're great at building and retaining high quality relationships. You get it. You can empathize with somebody. Personally, I'm going through something right now that is affecting my child, and when your child's unhappy, we're unhappy. Your parent is unhappy, but I'm putting myself in her shoes to really understand where she's coming from, and I'm trying to communicate in an empathetic way that supports her. Right? Sometimes empathy, we don't necessarily have to agree with the person. We've gone through that with the recent election. This person's voting for this one's voting for the other, and there is no going back. It's non-negotiable. But when you have your empathy hat on, you can understand his or her reasons why he is or she is going that way in her vote. So again, we don't have to agree, but it's that understanding. That's the key. It's to treat others how and how they're feeling. So if somebody is sad at work, you're not going to kind of, hopefully, if you have strong empathy skills, just push it away. You're going to try to understand where those feelings are coming from, right? And then you'll be able to help them and support them in a way that you're building that solid relationship. Another great hallmark to empathy is tolerance for the more challenging. There's different personalities in the workplace. We've got the passive aggressive. We've got the type A who has to be in control. Maybe we have somebody who's really laid back. There's just so many, the emotional personality who perhaps, gets excited or cries easily, whatever it may be. But when you have really good empathy skills, you're able to tolerate those challenging personalities. You're able to take a step back and understand where they're coming from. It's a skill and it takes time. And then I always like to say, service with a smile. It sounds so Pollyannish or cliche or trite, but honestly, smiling it's a subtle way that sends that signal as I get it. I understand what you're going through. So when you're talking to somebody, now if it's a sad occasion, obviously you're not going to be smiling, but you're going to be showing that concern, right? And our body language helps us do that with empathy. So I have this image here. We can all relate to it. Empathy is walking in somebody else's shoes, right? Literally trying to understand that. It's seeing with the eyes of another. It's hearing or listening with the ears of another. It's feeling with the heart of another. That's sort of the apex of empathy. It's really trying to understand their perspective and where they're coming from. And it takes time. Like I was saying, empathy is a skill set that takes time. It takes practice. But at the end of the day, I shared those examples, those benefits that happen in the workplace. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want a healthier well-being? So it's worthwhile to try to elevate and develop your empathy skills. I love this quote. It's a Chinese proverb, but I'll read it aloud. Be not disturbed at being misunderstood. Be disturbed rather at not being understanding. We've all had situations, whether with a coworker, with our boss, maybe on a personal level with our spouse, a good friend, when they aren't getting it. They're just not listening. They're not feeling the concern or the pain or the happiness that you're feeling. And so empathy is a part of an emotional intelligence leadership domain. And emotional intelligence is actually, on a side note, one of my most favorite topics. But Daniel Goleman, he's the guru, 21st century expert, if you will, of emotional intelligence. And he's written lots of books. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list, volumes and editions, and he's a behavioral psychologist who knows his stuff. And empathy is one of his leadership domains that require high emotional intelligence. And as I mentioned earlier, HR folks are looking for those coworkers, those employees who have empathy in their personality and in their leadership style. Now, um, empathy is not always easy. I'll give you an example. I had a situation personally where I was working in an office environment. This is going back years ago. And I was leading a team, and I had a very nice young man, come into my office every single day in tears or unhappy or irritable, or just nothing made him happy. And he was having some problems at home, and he also was very overweight, and that was bothering him as well. And I understood it. I get it. I mean, we're human beings. We all can relate to having a problem at home, or perhaps, not happy with ourselves. But it happened every single day, and I was not getting my work done, and nor was he. I mean, at the end of the day, we're hired to perform and to do our work. And so I tried very hard to understand his perspective, and I did. But I didn't necessarily agree, right? I understood it, but I didn't necessarily agreed with the way he was managing the situation. So I actually had to, say to him in a very assertive, understanding, positive way, look, Bill, I get that you are unhappy. I understand. In fact, I've had situations myself. So I feel that pit in your stomach. But you have to get a grip, right? You have to understand that this isn't necessarily the place to share your concerns every single day. It's not helping. It's not helping your work, your performance, and it's not helping your mental state either. So I'm going to suggest some things that I think will be helpful. And this was my way of showing support and empathy. And in my way, I felt it was really, putting on my empathy hat. I said, our organization offers counseling for you to get some support in a more professional way. And I encourage you to get that, because they'll be able to help you and better, adjust and help you with your needs. And then, if things don't work out, we may have to reevaluate what's going on here. You may have to take some personal time off or whatever to help get you back on the track. So it sounds like I'm being cruel, but I wasn't. I was giving him heartfelt listening, listening to him communicate, and then my way of communicating to offer him the support I thought he needed. And ultimately, he did both. He took, I only think, just a couple of weeks off. He was getting his counseling, and he came back happy and understood and felt really appreciated and valued. And he was able to kind of turn his life around. So I know that that's more of a personal issue, but when it comes into the workplace, it can certainly have an impact on others and work performance. So I have this image that really kind of exemplifies empathy. And you might have seen it before. It's been around for years. Some people see a duck. Some people see a rabbit. Some people may feel very strongly that that is a duck and not a rabbit. And on the contrary, some people may feel very strongly that this is a rabbit and not a duck. How could you see that this is not a duck? It's a rabbit. I can't even see how you're thinking that that's a duck. And, some people, and this is just an example, but for example, we have had situations, perhaps you're at a project meeting and you're talking about, budgeting or planning an event, or whatever the case may be, and you feel strongly about something and this person sees it the other way. It's trying to understand how this person sees the duck and I see the rabbit. When you can come to that middle ground, ta-da, that's empathy. That's whittling away half of the problem. And so I want you to take pause when you are in a situation where that person feels strongly about something and you're just not there. You're trying to, but you just, gosh, I can't, I'm trying, but this is the way I see it. But when you think of this image, this duck versus rabbit, hopefully that will get you to that place where you can say, okay, Sue or Jill or Bill or Tom, let's talk about this. Let's break this down, and let's kind of make me better understand your perspective, your viewpoint, And then I will in turn share my viewpoint. And hopefully we can get to that understanding. That is empathy. And that is success. So we all have ways to improve empathy, just like we have ways in which we can communicate better. We can be a better listener. We could be better at the game of golf. We could be better at, a handiwork. Perhaps it's sewing or stitching, whatever it may be. We all want to improve. So listening is the key. It's the key in every facet of communicating, because we may miss that key ingredient, that key message, when we just keep locked and stubborn in our thoughts. So try not to interrupt that person when he or she is explaining her viewpoint or his side of the situation. Don't interrupt. Ask those open-ended questions, not the closed questions where it's just a yes or no, but dig deeper, probe. Jill, help me understand why you feel you're treated unfairly you think you're getting more work than me, perhaps. Just help me understand that. And that will allow her to communicate and say, well, look at last week, for example. I received 2 bigger projects than you on shorter deadlines, and you're taking lunch breaks and I'm sitting here working away. So when they can give you that information, you're able to kind of put your shoe in hers, or feel and understand, see and listen, all those little emotions, her perspective, right? Also, this is a tricky one because sometimes we want to push back and share, our point of view without saying, wait, it's my way or the highway. So let that person talk, right? Get all that information to better understand. Now, I want to just talk about a little bit about empathy when I'm not talking about, a death or a divorce or a serious breakup. That's easy to empathize with people, right? Because we've all felt some form of grief, and we know that pit in our stomach and that sadness, and we want to reach out and help somebody. That's a great form of empathy. But really, the empathy in the workplace, it's a little more challenging, because sometimes we take it personally. And so it's very, very important not to be defensive. Right. So maybe this person seems like she's getting off easily than you, or the boss is favoring her, or whatever. Again, it's taking that internal look, giving yourself a little inventory of your feelings and your skill sets, and then realizing and talking to that other person and realizing what's going on in his or her life too. So again, empathy is tricky. And it's not sympathizing with anybody. It's really feeling the pain, or feeling the joy, feeling the sensitivity that they're going through. There's lots of things that are happening in the news today that we could really improve in our empathy. Anyway, I'm not going to get political, but I just leave it at that. Now, using positive body language is very important too in bolstering your empathy skills. So when you're having that conversation with a coworker, maybe you just can't understand why she's always whining or complaining, or maybe she's not stepping up to the plate and taking initiative, or whatever the case may be. When you're talking with them, maintaining that eye contact, nodding and showing some sort of agreement. I didn't really think about it in that way. Okay, I could see your point of view. Thank you for sharing that. Let me share my point of view that maybe open your eyes to this perspective. And so when you're talking, using your open palms, I'm a big, that means being inclusive. You want to gain buy-in, collaborativeness, all of these things that help when you can just use a simple body language like the open palm position, nodding, using just the ways in which you can temper your voice. I see. Taking a pause. I don't want this to sound like a game. There are techniques, right? There are techniques that will help not only improve your communication style, but your empathy as well. So developing our empathy, this is up to you, right? You can do it, or you can say, you know what, I'm too busy. As I mentioned earlier, Daniel Goleman, this behavioral psychologist who specializes in emotional intelligence, he claims that this is the cornerstone, the pillar of leadership. Leadership at whatever level we are in our career, we are all leaders. So what is that one little thing, that one little element? Maybe it's two, maybe it's three, that we are going to start to do. Maybe it's as simple as listening. Listening to that person's feelings, hearing maybe that grievance that you just don't get, but understanding it, trying to understand it from his or her perspective. What is it that you're going to stop doing? Maybe it's stop being defensive. And that's easily a combination. You wouldn't think of it as a combination with empathy, but it is, right? Like, oh, please, wah, 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 call the ambulance. She's always complaining. Why is she complaining? There's always an underlying root. So maybe stop being defensive and be open to better understanding that person's reasoning. And obviously, you're a great leader. What are you going to continue to do? Maybe you are just an empathetic person by nature. People in the not-for-profit sector, believe it or not, they rank so high in empathy. People in the Fortune 500 at all levels in their profession, empathy is good, but you're still focused on growing and climbing that proverbial ladder of success. So you are maybe not as empathetic as you could be. So what are those things that you want to continue to do that will help you not only develop your empathy skills, but raise them to a higher level? And then what are the three things you plan to do differently? We all can adapt better and to do better. So take the time to look inside. Maybe it's not three. Maybe your empathy skills are already really high, but maybe it's just one action. Maybe there's a person at work that really gets under your craw. Maybe there's a person at work that doesn't get the attention that he or she should have, right? Maybe it's just a simple act of kindness that you're going to, make a point to listen and get to know somebody in the morning. Good morning, Julie. I hope you're having a great day. I know you have a big assignment and your boss is, you've got all these travel expenses to do and you've got this new program that we have to implement on Excel, whatever it may be. My workload seems to be a little light this week. So if I can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Things like that not only build your character, your integrity, your trust, but makes you feel good inside. And who doesn't like to feel good? I mean, we're living in a world of just so much uncertainty right now. And if you could have that ability to make a change by sharing your empathy skills with somebody else, I want to be your friend. I do. And then this is let me go back here. Whoops. Well, the last step here is the next step. Challenge yourself. Go out 30 days, 60 days, whatever it may be. And just put yourself out there, right? Say, you know what? I guess I'm slacking a little. I'm letting it slide, or I'm a rock star. I'm great at empathy. Now, it doesn't sound unusual when I share this fact that women tend to have more empathy than men. Not to say that men don't, because they are very, there's lots of men out there who are very, very supportive and they try to understand everybody's perspective. So, we can do the job or do whatever we need to do right. But by and large, women, we tend to be more empathetic. So I'm going to repeat what I said in the beginning. Empathy is the ability to communicate. It's this being able to completely send and receive message in a very effective way. And it's the ability to understand people's feelings, thoughts, and viewpoints. Just think about that. And you can still disagree. Empathy is not always being on that person's side, but the big key is understanding, feeling what they're going through. That is leadership. That is somebody who will grow in his or her career. And by the way, in his or her personal life. You will build such a rapport. I mean, you're likable, you're approachable, you're trustworthy, you're receptive. These are all skills any leader would want to have in their communications toolbox. So I wish you luck. Don't to be too hard on yourself, but challenge yourself, especially with those difficult personalities, to be more empathetic. I wish you luck and much success. And thank you for your time. Bye-bye.